Hi, I'm Matt Cogswell, and this is Guitar Talk. I hope over the next few weeks to share my fascination of all things guitar with you. How they're made, how they're taken care of, and how they're enjoyed by people that play them. I hope you enjoy the shows.
All right, gonna get them in tune. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to push it against the post.
You know, I noticed something when you did those. On the last one, you had to really, it was a pronounced turn on the key to move the tone up and down. This one is very little.
The gears come in different varieties.
Are these geared at a higher ratio?
Actually, a lower ratio if you have to turn less. The higher the ratio, the more turns you have to get to the point, which is more of a fine-tuning issue. But to be honest with you, if you know how to stretch your strings, the gear ratio really doesn't make that much of a difference to me, considering a lot of instruments were tuned with the friction peg. You know, a piece of wood jammed into the... If you look at a flamenco guitar, that's the tuners on a flamenco guitar. They're like violin tuners. They're just pieces of wood that are tapered, and they go into the headstock, and you gotta tension them into the headstock, where these are geared, and you don't have to do that. But in all cases, the gear allows for it allows the tuning to be expedited. But the amount of gear turn, once you're tuning...
I would think that if there was more teeth in the actual gear wheel, that you would have a finer tuning and it would take longer. That's what this seems like to me, because you're not turning it as much. And that's the phone, and of course this is a place of business, so we will hear the phone.
Call from cell phone, alright.
Okay. At this point we're going to switch to another guitar, and I'm going to show you how to do a locking gear set. Hi, one of the last ones we're going to do today is locking gears. Now there's a few different kinds, but most of them are designed like the Spurzell here, where the locks are actually in the back of the gears. Now there's another type that lock from the top, but both use the same principle, and if we get enough time in the show, you might actually get to see one lock from the top. I know I have an instrument that I want to show you how to string the bridge, which is a Bigsby bridge, and that one has those lock from the tops. So maybe when we get to bridges, we'll take a look at the lock from the top. But they both work on the same principle. What you don't want is you don't want anything more than the string going to the gear. So they're really easy to string once you have enough eyesight to find the dang hole to get this dang thing in there. Where am I? There we go. Okay. And what I usually do is I pull the string through, tension it, give it a little bow, just a little bit of bow, so you get a little bit of wrap, but not a lot. Lock it from the back, and then give it a nice right hand kink.
So the lock actually locks the string itself.
Now, if you notice,
there's something inside that pinches. What does it do? Pull a post down onto the string?
Well, there's two kinds of locks. There's this kind of lock, which actually is like a pin style, where you twist it and the pin comes up through the tube. This is hollowed.
Right.
And now pinches it from the back.
Right.
The ones that go from the top are actually reverse threaded into each other. So there's a cap on the top. You run it through the cap, and then as you're turning the gear, eventually it locks itself. So it's self-locking, and then you start turning it. But with a screwdriver, I tend to want to give still a little extra lock to it.
Which one would be more likely to slip and
neither?
And the string go
It's still more the nut than any of the gears.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
And stringing technique. You know, so if you run your strings up the shaft, there's not enough sustain in them, and now they want to bounce out. So that's why you want to go down the shaft on all of them. But with locking gears, a lot of times they pre-mark them. So I don't know if you can see this. Should I move it down a little? No, that looks good. Okay, you can notice that this is the tallest, the same height, then a little lower, the same height, then a little lower, the same height. And look, no string trees.
Right.
Because this is what they call a staggered gear. So it's going to do all that work for you without having to have string trees.
And what work exactly are we talking about? It's going to do.
Create the string angle
Okay.
in the nut. So you get that done automatically.
So pull it through a little tension and then
Lock it in, yeah, and then just tune it right up.
So you don't have to worry about cinching because it's done the cinching for
No,
you.
no, don't have to worry about a thing. So the analogy I use is Indiana Jones is running down the tunnel in that first movie with the big rock after him. He gets to that crevice and he cinches the whip. But if he only wrapped it around once, I wouldn't jump. But now if an ape comes out and puts a nail in it, oh heck, I can jump.
And ape comes out and
Yeah.
puts a nail in it. I like the way your mind works, Stan. Kind of twisted, but I get the point.
These string up real fast. A lot of professionals like, especially backload locking gears, because all you gotta do is, it's really easy to unlock them and lock them, and the string comes out real fast. I remember I was doing, I forgot what tune we were doing, but there was 2 guitar solos in it, and I was supposed to have the first one, and I looked to the other guitar player and I showed him that I broke a string. In the time he finished his solo, when it was time to go to the second solo, he stopped the band and told me to go change my string. While he was soloing, I had changed my string and retuned it, and I was ready to play. I was already, before he was halfway done, I was already providing the rhythm part in the solo all over again. So I wasn't even out for that long, and it's all because of locking gears. And when he saw me do that, he said, "Put some on mine."
All right, so how about explaining maybe some of the shortcomings, if there are any, in locking gears?
No,
And
not
with
really.
age, can they start to slip? How do you maintain them? Is there any maintenance?
Well, the only thing that I have to say about locking gears, and as far as choosing them, the ones that lock from the top usually go into a smaller hole. And the reason they invented them to become locking gears and go into a smaller hole is because a lot of vintage guitars had a smaller hole in their headstock. If I put these on a 54 Fender, I have to open these holes that they load into. Therefore, if you want to put the original gears back on, you can't put them back on because the hole's too big. And then if you get the Planet Waves, there's another locking gear that locks from the back, but it actually has a trimming mechanism up here, so you actually trim the string completely flush. No scratches, no nothing, but the hole is so much bigger than a standard gear, a standard die-cast gear, that you can't even put these back in if you wanted to. So you got to watch, you know, you can always open up a hole to make it take a bigger gear, but you can't close it back up to go back the other way.
I cut it three times, and it's still too short. I think that's the old saying, right? Cut it
That's
twice,
it.
it's still too short. You can cut it too long, but
Now I still give it that proverbial stretch, and I'm going towards the gear, so it's nice and tight against the gear.
so that's one stretch is all you're using.
So all you gotta do is just kink the string once. Now what I usually do, and I can't show you because the camera angle will be bad, is I actually play the instrument and I bend the strings, and then I keep on kinking them until they stabilize as I'm playing them up and down the neck.
And how do you know when they're stabilized? You get the feel for it? Or?
No, you watch the tuner. So when you bend the string, and then you
I know,
come
I
back.
say you bend it two or three times. How do you know that, you know?
See, it's flat. Now it's stable,
Okay, just like that.
just like that.
And,
that concludes the. I gotta trim them off, and just like the other ones, I get as close to the head of the piece that I can.
and it's nice that there are no worries about the string slipping. You can cut it right down to nothing.
Yep, they're locked in, unless you unlock them. You know, so if you unlock them, you're screwed because you
Is
can't
there any
reuse
way,
the
like
string.
when you're just playing out or you're tuning or whatever, you could accidentally boom?
No, you have to physically go. You have to actually
Okay,
unlock
just
it.
being the devil's advocate.
That's okay. I
To
understand.
wrap it up, Stan, what would you like to?
Well, on the next bench move, I guess that we're going to have is we're going to come back and probably show you how to do the bridge systems and how to string through those. There's not as many as the gears, and I'll demonstrate how that last set of gears works. But as you still can see, everything's still coming from the inside of the headstock going to the outside. So when you turn the gear, your hand is going in the same motion.
Well, I hope that was informative. Hey Stan, this is different. Doing something different today.
This is a nylon string or a classical guitar. Another instrument that's similar to this guitar is the flamenco guitar. Although I don't have a flamenco to string and there's not a lot of them, but this is going to be our beginning of not only finishing the headstock series, but we're also going to start with the bridge part of the stringing technique.
Okay, so this is different from the other guitar, the acoustic you showed us.
The acoustic that we're going to yes, it's that would be a button going into
Like a peg.
Right.
And these are, you actually have to do like a sailor's knot in this thing.
Yes. So
Right.
here's
Have at it, brother.
Here's how we begin. I usually take it in from the front because sometimes the string bumps in to it. I will be doing the treble strings probably the opposite way. And what you're going to do is I want the string, when I wind it, I want to wind in that direction. That way I can also control through the other strings. I can actually overwrap them around it so we don't have any string rattle happening at the top. So you start in the direction opposite the direction you want to go in.
So you're just doing an overhand then?
Overhand, and then over and under once is actually good enough, but I usually like to do it twice.
Well, okay, so if you do extra wraps like that, it's well known, like in the fishing industry, it cinches down on itself.
Yeah. So now I'm gonna let go of the front, and you can see the loop.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm gonna pull through, and what I want to finally happen is on the very edge of this bridge. That's where I want the knot to happen. That's the part that's actually holding this string from sliding through. So you gotta make sure that they crisscross at that point.
So the
Otherwise,
first one's pretty important then.
the first one in the row. The other three are just to hang on to, and then I usually push the lasso part down against the string.
Okay, once you get that up here to the headstock and you run it through, does that keep that little floating piece in place for you as well?
If you cinch that right there and give it a tug and get it nice and tight there, it's gonna stay.
Okay.
All right.
And does it also, the floating piece there, that white piece,
Yeah.
what purpose does that serve?
Well, that's the saddle. Even on a regular acoustic, you got one of these.
Okay.
That's where the strings rest. This is also the point of intonation, the distance from the inside of the nut to the saddle.
Okay.
All right. All right. I'm gonna put this on the headstock real quick as we readjust the camera, and I'll probably have half this guitar done when we readjust the camera, and I'm gonna show you how to string it on the headstock end.
You ain't that fast, Dan.
Yes, I am. All right, welcome back. We're gonna do the headstock end of this, and as you notice, I got two of them up. I like to go up the headstock, which you saw in the earlier episode. When we lock the string in on this one, we're gonna pull it back up, and I want the strings to go straight in line when they come out of the nut. This is the nifty thing about a slotted headstock, is you got to keep them going in line. Some of the tuning problems we have today with modern guitars, inclusive of electrics, is when they did steel strings this way, everybody went ouch, 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 so they just inverted the gears without thinking about how the string is running, which is really most of the troubles of a Les Paul staying in tune. So I'm going in the direction I'm going to go because I want to have this string go that way. And I lock against it, and then I pull to the opposite side of where the string's protruding out of the hole here. And then where the string I wrapped it, I'm going to come and hit it again and allow it to lock, and then I send it in that direction. So you'll see once I get it strung in, stringing in the sheets. I'm sorry. We tend to sing songs at the shop when we're doing these things. Now I'm starting to sound like Jonathan Winter, which is an old name. Almost there, almost there. And see, you can see how the two E strings are almost straight right to the gears. And this accounts for tuning stability. With nylon strings, you got to double lasso them. In both cases, you got to create these little knots. But if you create too much of a knot, it's only going to be more difficult to get off if you break it. These come off relatively easy. All right, and so that's the E string. And let me do the next one real quick. Hi. Cameraman complained that they didn't get to see that too well, so I'm gonna demonstrate a little. Do this all over again. Put it through. You want to have a good amount because you want the string to travel over. So I'm gonna try to use up as much amount as I can. Now you see I went up to the forward of it, considering the end of the headstock is forward. Brought the string up. I'm gonna be going in this direction, so that's the direction I'm gonna bring the string and cross it. And see how it's crossed? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it in place with my finger. And now I'm going to move it to the opposite direction where I don't want to go, which is over there. And you see the other string protruding out? We're going to follow that. And then we're going to bring it back over the knot. As opposed to doing this, we're going over here and we're going to double lock it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep everything staying to that direction. And let the amount of string bring me over to where I need to be. So you can see I'm using the high E slot to keep the string tight against itself. I suppose a string winder would be quicker, but classical's being down like this, string winder doesn't work as efficiently. Okay, and as I'm getting to that point, once I get the slackness of the string out of my hand, I'm going to move it to the position it needs to be in and do the final tightening there. And we're there. As you can see, the strings are starting to head as straight as they can to the gears. why I have forearms like Popeye. And with the exception of finishing up, that's how you string a classical guitar. Hey, so I'm done with the classical. I'm just going to tune it up a little bit. And then we're going to go on to the next guitar we're going to do. And the reason I'm doing this bridge system is the proverbial Bigsby. And then after the Bigsby, we're going to do the ugly Floyd Rose. So those of you who do play guitar, if you're wondering how to do those, Hooray! We shall return.